Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes! The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it. Oh my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello, welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. Well, after a entertaining, I mean, come on, guys. Like, you guys all expected that, right? Such an entertaining game against the New England Revolution. I knew that game was going to be such high-end soccer. Everybody that I sat with, that's joining me on this podcast, we were all screaming, we want that 1 point, we want that 1 point. And, for whatever reason, people were screaming they want 3 points. I mean, 3 points was totally out of the question, I thought, last night. But, hey, I appreciate people that thought that the Union had a chance to pick up all 3 points. Maybe they should have. We'll talk about the penalty kicks or the lack of penalty kicks and all that jazz here in a few moments. But joining me on the podcast are, I think, the best supporters in 138. They are Mr. Ed Fagan and Ricky Zellefrow. Thank you guys for both coming back onto the show. You guys have been on multiple times. And look, you guys aren't playing each other in a trivia show. We're actually going to talk about some soccer. So welcome, guys.
Yay. We're gonna listen to Ricky rant about Anthony Fontana.
I was wondering how long Todd was going to do the bit for where he was talking about how exciting that game was last night. I eventually muted myself because I was like dying over here. I was having a hard time.
I don't blame you. I mean, I had a hard time even talking about how exciting that game is. And look, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to talk about how exciting last night's 1-1 draw was. But before we get into that, there is a lot of MLS news, and let's try not to, because I know, like Ed said, Ricky's gonna have a lot to say about Anthony Fontana, I'm sure. I mean, look, I think Anthony Fontana did play pretty well last night, and so we'll get into all that. But before we do that, let's just go straight into the MLS news. All right, so some of these we can talk longer about if you guys want to. Some of them we can say, yeah, let's just move on. So I think this one is one that we'll probably move on fast from, and that is Toronto FC. They've signed yet again another player. This time they announced the signing of striker Dom Dwyer to a 2-year deal. We know Dom Dwyer spent a lot of time with Kansas City and last season with Orlando City. Guys, any thoughts on this? It seems like, if you're an old U.S. men's national team striker, Toronto is the place to go.
Yeah, well, I can hear 2017 pre-Gold Cup, whatever year that was, Ghana really worrying about Dom Dwyer right now. I can hear them quaking in their boots.
Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I hate playing against them, and I don't like Toronto, so it's just one of those things like, okay, great, like, I can still root against him. When he plays well for the U.S., that's all well and good. But he was annoying to play against with KC. He was annoying to play against with Orlando, and it'll probably be annoying to play against him with Toronto.
Yeah, I can't imagine he'll start many games for Toronto. But I don't know. I mean, looking at the MLS schedule, games do come pretty thick and fast. Some teams, some teams, are more fortunate than others that they don't play 12 games on a 2 days rest. But, let's we'll save that for later on. But moving on, let's talk about another player signing. And this is everybody's least favorite former United States men's national team player. That is Jeff Cameron. He signs a 1-year deal with FC Cincinnati with a club option for another year. And, yeah, this is one that, yeah, we could spend a lot of time talking about him for all the wrong reasons, but I'm fine moving on from Jeff Cameron. You guys?
It's just Cincinnati throwing money at another problem. And
he's
not
35.
Really looking into it.
35-year-old, I think, is going to save their back
They're
line.
paying for Jeff Cameron's national team name, and that's it. And I don't know what's going on in Cincinnati's front office. I think it's a mess.
The weird thing is Jeff Cameron and Alejandro Bedoya are best friends. Think about that one. Don't figure it out because it makes zero sense, but we can move on from that.
I guess they don't talk about much politics.
Yeah, obviously.
Keep politics out of it.
Honestly, I couldn't tell if you were being serious or not, but...
No, they are seriously, best friends. And it makes zero sense.
Well, there we go. You learn something new every day. Never knew that. But let's go ahead and move on to some Union player news. So that is the Philadelphia Union have announced the signing of attacking midfielder Daniel Gazdag from Hungarian side Honved on a 2-year deal with 2 club options. So a 3rd and 4th year club option. And look, I'm sure this is where the Anthony Fontana talk is going to start. But before we get into all that, let's just hear what Jim Curtin has to say about Daniel's arrival.
He kind of fits our locker room in that he did everything that his team needed this year. If they needed goals, he played as a second striker and got them goals. He can play as a 10. He can play as an 8. He's very versatile and just gives us a great player in our midfield. So his skill set very much fits the Philadelphia Union. He'll be an instant boost to our team. And again, he's an incredibly talented player and one that I'm super excited to get to work with. And he also does the work defensively too. And again, you see all the goals and the statistics, and that obviously it jumps off the page and is special. But also just the presence that he is on the field, doing whatever the team needs. He's a winner, and I'm really, really happy. This is a big signing for the club, and we can't wait to get him in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and so then later on in the press conference, Jim Curtin said, maybe we can get him in for New York Red Bulls, maybe DC United, maybe Portland. And so I think most fans are assuming after Hungary gets knocked out of the group of death in the Euros, then he'll come to the Union sometime in July. But I don't know. Later on in that press conference, Jim seemed pretty optimistic that, hey, maybe the Union can finally get some good news with player visas and get Daniel here at least on the bench against DC Red Bulls, which there's no way I see that happening, or Portland. So, guys, your thoughts on an attacking midfielder that the Union, in my opinion, have been lacking. But here we go. Let's go ahead and hear Ricky's thoughts first.
I don't know if this is fully the part where we go the Anthony Fontana rants.
It definitely is.
Because I don't think it's this guy's fault. It's not like you're signing number 10 because you need some sort of attacking help. I think a lot of people would probably agree that we probably need a striker more than we need a 10 at this point. We need a 4th center back more than we need another 10 because we probably have 4 or 5 10s on this team. And we're having a lot of trouble scoring right now, at least in non-CCL games. And let's look at the last few games at home. We lose 2-1, tie 1-1 in a absolutely drab Wednesday night game. You can't do much about the Wednesday night games, but Red Bulls are coming to town on Saturday. You better be you're gonna have a lot of chances against them because they also play this counter-attacking style. And if you look back historically at the Union Red Bull games, it's always they score an early goal, we make a valiant comeback. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to score, but none of our forwards ever seem to be continuously scoring, and that can be a problem for us. And we've got 3 forwards that are very streaky and a 4th forward that's been concussed for the whole season.
This is true, which is crazy that he's I swear the Union took him off the concussion protocol and then his name popped back on there. So yeah, it's pretty concerning that Jack DeVries, I always say his last name wrong and Ricky always gets on me. It's pretty concerning that he's still on there. But Ed, look, in my opinion, I don't think Jameer is a number 10. I think he's a lot better as a number 8. I feel like when he drops deeper, then that's when he's at his best. Yeah, he scored some goals. He's looked pretty silky in the CCL games, but I think he's been pretty underwhelming as the 10 in MLS play. So what are your thoughts on the signing?
Yeah, I think it just kind of, like Ricky said, it kind of just adds to the logjam. They have a lot of these tweener guys that are 8s and 10s, and they kind of don't know where they want to play them. And I mean, I think he looks like a great player and a great signing. I think this is a quintessential Prince Tanner signing. And the big ones are important. I mean, Montero is important, but he's another guy that he has every once in a while he'll have a good game at the 10. but he's really just he's really more of a box-to-box guy. I think he's better as a box-to-box guy. And as you know, as we discussed last night and everything else, Fontana, you really want to get closer to the goal. I don't really want him at the number 8 in this formation, like on the left side in the number 8, but playing box to box and just running. I want him taking shots, and he still created a lot. Like he still created a lot and did a lot last night. But when I read the Twitter reaction after the game, everybody was like, "Why don't you just switch Montero and Fontana in this formation? They can both play either way." And at this point in the game, I want the guy that can shoot in front of the goal instead of the guy that trips in front of the goal. But, you know, you can't predict stuff like that, I guess. But I love the signing. I think he looks like a great player. I wish they could work these guys in to where the best group of guys can all play at the same time, but it just doesn't seem to be a thing that can happen in this system.
Yeah, that is something that Jim brought up. He's like, yeah, I really want to play with a fully fit lineup, but he's like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen for a very long time with our best 11 out there. And you're right. I mean, that has been a problem for the Union over the years where, oh, it looks like we're finally getting healthy. Oh, look, here's a key piece out injured and everything. Now we got to change the formation, change what the personnel looks like on the field. So, yeah, that would be great for Union fans to see a fully fit 11, our best 11 out there on the field. But I guess we'll have to wait and see for a little bit. But look, Daniel had 18 goals and 10 assists this season for his club, saved them from getting relegated. And Ernst Tanner did mention, look, if they weren't in a relegation battle, we could have announced his signing a lot sooner than what we did, and he potentially could have been over here by now. And unfortunately, no, it just wasn't meant to be that early. And look, he's not even over here yet, and hopefully he does get over here. I know, like I said earlier, that Jim's optimistic that he could potentially be here for the DC game, the Portland game, but I'm not believing it yet because, look, he'll come over here, and then he's going to have to go right back with Hungary to get ready for the Euros. So,
I don't know how much sense it makes for him to come here for one game and then go back, but it sounds like that's what they want to do. I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, I guess to see what he looks like in training, to meet his teammates. I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense, but I just can't see it happening. Look, the earliest I think is July, and I know he's played 34 games this season, so he's played a ton of games, and a lot of fans are probably going to expect him to go straight into the starting lineup. And look, the Union just played game number 5. They still got a long ways to go, plus the 2 games against Club America. They've got a really, really, really tight schedule, and there's definitely going to be rotation, or at least there better be rotation. But look, I'm super excited to get a guy that can play the 8, that can play the 10. He said that his 2 best positions are either at the 8 or the 10. He didn't even say the striker is one of his best positions, and we've seen him play as a striker with his club. But look, we've seen this with Ernst Tanner where it's pretty typical of him to sign a player that nobody's heard of, but not only that, a player that can play multiple positions. We know that Leon Flach has been playing between the 8 and the 6, looks great there. We know that Kacper Przyblko, I know Jim said in 2019, yeah, I mean, he's good enough to play the number 10. God, no. Like, he's slow enough. I don't want to see him as the 10. We saw Brujo can potentially play the 8. We know he plays at the 6. Orvat, who's long gone, can play as a center back and play as a number 6, potentially the 8. Ali Bedoya, I know it wasn't an Ernst signing, but yeah, we have guys that can just fill in multiple spots, and that's what you love to see. And happy that the Union were somehow able to not get this deal to be a DP signing. I know the Union paid $1.8 million for Daniel, which is the second highest transfer fee ever that the Union have ever paid, the highest fee. Some way, somehow, it's not a DP signing, so I'm not complaining. Ernst Tanner just continues to work his magic, and hopefully Daniel's healthy by the time he gets here, and he performs well for us this year, and hopefully we see some more additions, and I'm sure we'll talk about that again later on. But let's go ahead, and I know we'll probably talk about this for quite some time, and we'll see where this conversation takes us. But last episode, I was being optimistic, saying, yeah, a potential rebrand for the Columbus Crew, and yeah, who knows what the Crew are, because by now everybody's seen that video where they say, yeah, we're the Crew, we're not the Crew. Yeah, we're the Crew, we're not the Crew. They changed the logo, calling themselves Columbus SC now. And on May 12th, the owner, Dee and Jimmy Haslam, came out and gave a statement and said, "We have consistently appreciated, respected, and embraced our supporters. We value their passion and loyalty to the crew, and clearly the process was not in line with how we intend to operate. The feedback from representatives of Nordecki was not evaluated and discussed at the appropriate level or incorporated enough into our process. We have been and will continue to be committed and excited about investing into the crew, its players, and our fan experiences so that we best represent the Columbus community. Our dedication to winning championships, taking great care of our fans, and giving back to the community will remain our steadfast focus. At the time, we will turn our focus to creating substantial and meaningful dialogue with the Nordecki on moving forward together." So that statement basically says to me, yeah, we screwed up, but we're not going to go back and just fix what we messed up. Your guys' thoughts for Columbus being the crew, but not being the crew, and that god-awful new logo?
It's very interesting because the organization that they went to like get advice on what they should do for the rebrand, after, you know, they kind of rebranded like 2 years ago, basically said, yeah, you should probably not do this. And they were like, you know what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly what you told us not to do. And this is like, what, 3 years in a row where we've had a team just be like, we're just going to change things. Chicago is like, yeah, let's throw out this, whatever this is. This logo is our new logo. And then the Montreal Impact decided that probably one of the like oldest North American soccer brands not in Cascadia needed to be like new. And it's a little bit ridiculous because like I think I saw the picture of like I think it was on Sebastian Salazar and Hercules Gomez's podcast where they like showed all the teams that have rebranded in some sort of way in like the last 15 years. And like some of them, I feel like they're owning it. Like Sporting Kansas City sounds stupid still, but everybody gets it at this point. FC Dallas is fine. Things like that. It's like, oh, it was kind of annoying, but they weren't a big enough brand at that point. But like Columbus is like 26 years old. And they've changed the logo like twice. It's like, is Robert Kraft coming out tomorrow and renaming New England the New England Football Club tomorrow? And we're all going to be like, you don't even know you own this team. What are you doing? It's a certain level of ridiculousness that we're just like sitting here like, oh, San Jose is going to change their name again 15 years later after being removed from San Jose and then coming back. And now we're just going to change their name. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, it's sad because they're such like a historic team in the league. You know, like I feel like when the Union were coming in, they were pretty hot at the time. They had like Scalotto. They won the league the year before, I think. I think Brian Carroll was still there, and even that stadium with having the U.S. games against Mexico there and Dos Acero. There's so much history there, and they're moving on from the stadium, which is understandable. You know, organizations just do that to have more club seats or whatever it may be. But this is kind of, it just seems like extra for no reason. They like Ricky just said, they rebranded like 3 years ago and changed the crest to like a more, I don't know, whatever crusty kind of design instead of the Village People thing they had before. And, you know, Sons of Ben back in like we would have Village People songs for them. So I get why they got away from that logo, I guess. But like this whole thing, like it's fine. They won the league last year. Everything was fine. And I feel like they hired somebody to make change for the sake of change. And they, like you were saying in that article, like those Nordec, like their fans just weren't really part of the decision at all. They were just kind of like, yeah, we hear you, but we're just going to do this marketing thing that we think will work. And it's a C with a tail, I think, now. And Columbus SC, like you said, is it the Crew? Is it Columbus SC? Is it just Columbus? Is it Columbus Crew SC? I think that's what it was before. But I don't know. It's just kind of a mess.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's pretty funny. Like when all this was going on Twitter, the union posted a GIF of them unrevealing the union logo and said, like, yeah, we love our name and everything, and basically applying, yeah, we won't change it. Hopefully they don't, because I did see fans giving negative feedback saying, I swear to God, if you guys change the name of this club to Philadelphia FC or Philadelphia SC or change the badge. Look, we did see a badge change, I feel like, a couple years ago, and the only thing they changed was the colors, which is no big deal. I do like the colors that they made them now, the lighter blue and the lighter gold as opposed to the darker colors before. I think that was a good change, and I don't think that ever got any negative feedback. And look, yeah, none of us are Columbus fans, but we can appreciate the history, what Columbus Crew have meant to MLS. And the only explanation I can come up with is maybe the Haslams just want to get rid of everything that Anthony Precourt left at the club. But it's like Anthony Precourt didn't choose the name. Like, yeah, I guess he had a hand in choosing a new logo, but the new logo is a lot better than, like you said, the Village People, whatever you want to call that logo when they first came into the league. So, I mean, that was a good change. And then they, in my opinion, like I said, I liked what the Crew's logo was before. Now, like, I don't know, it just seems like an esports team logo now. It's
yeah, that's what it looks like.
So bad. Like, I get it. Like, if you want to have that in, like, for a secondary logo, I'm all for it. But to make that your main logo, and I think the Crew came out and said, yeah, we'll still have, like, shirts and everything with the Crew on it. We'll still have, like, signage that say the Crew and everything, but yeah, we're Columbus SC. We want to become more global. What screams global about Columbus, Ohio?
Like, Columbus, Ohio. I mean, they're global in terms of college American football, maybe, but they got that going.
That's it, right? I
don't know what they're known for globally.
I don't think they know either, but apparently they think that changing into Columbus Soccer Club is going to get them known globally. But I don't know. We'll see. Will they go back on this decision like the Chicago Fire did? I mean, that statement I read you guys from Dean Jimmy Haslam makes it seem like, no, we're sticking with this. But let's go back to Philadelphia Union news, which, yeah, this guy doesn't really play for the Union anymore, but, you know, he's going to be bringing the Union more money in, and could be as early as this summer. And that is Brenden Aaronson is being linked with a summer move to German club RB Leipzig, which is, yes, the sister club of RB Salzburg. The one thing I worry about, and I think you and I were talking about this last night, Ed, at the game before the game, with Daka being linked to Leipzig, where I just hope that Leipzig gives Salzburg a fair offer so we can get a good percentage fee back for Brenden Aaronson. And I know, look, Daka is 20, I think, or 19, and he's an attacking player, so he's going to go more than Brenden Aaronson. But Brenden Aaronson has 7-8 goals already with Salzburg. He was hardly scoring for the Union. Dude has grown so much in the last couple months, and if he does make a move this summer to Leipzig, I just hope that the Union get a respectable transfer fee back.
Yeah, it's I haven't looked at, like, I haven't crunched the numbers on that, but I know the sell-on fee.
It's like 15 or 20%, right?
Yeah, the Union get a pretty good percentage of whatever that is. So it does make you think, like, is this like an inter-organizational transfer? Like, but you can't. I don't think you can do that.
Technically,
between two different leagues. I guess there has to be some sort of transfer fee there.
Yeah.
But I don't know all the details. But yeah, he's played out of his mind, and he had a great season last year. He's a big reason they won the Supporters Shield, and he just continued it in Austria with Marsh. And Marsh is going to take guys with him if he can, I think, to Leipzig. And he's already get that? He got the coaching job there, right?
Yeah, 2-year deal.
Is that official?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's already happened, and I think, you know, he wants to take some of his guys with him. But yeah, I think the Union will get their cut, and I think there was like some incentive-based stuff in there, but I think they're going to get like whatever the max
Yeah,
out of
we've
that
already
incentive
got
stuff they're going to get because he played and scored and everything.
Yeah, we already got an extra $1 million because he, I think, started 20 games or played 20 games. I forget what he had to hit.
Right.
And I think the talk was, okay, look, whoever Brenden gets sold to, he'll get sold for double of what Salzburg paid. So what, you're looking at $12 million? But I don't know, the way that he's been playing, the way that he adopted to the Austrian Bundesliga, now granted, it is the Austrian Bundesliga. I think he's more than $12 million, especially because he's 20 years old. He's an upcoming American player. We're seeing him constantly get called into the first team with U.S. men's national team. And look, even if Brenden goes to RB Leipzig, I don't think that's going to be Brendan's final stop. We've heard him talk about how much he loves Liverpool. Steven Gerrard's his favorite player. So I do think eventually Brenden Aaronson will find his way in the Premier League. But I just hope that we can see a transfer fee between 16, 17 million for Brenden Aaronson. If it's a little bit more, hey, I'm all for it. Just, I really don't want to see Leipzig get cut any deal by Salzburg. Ricky?
I definitely feel like with the way that the Red Bull teams work, it was probably like a thought that it might happen that, like, say he plays there for 6 months and then they're like, okay, we'll buy him now. And I don't think at that point you would like look at loaning him back to Salzburg. I think, and I just took a look at who's getting promoted. So it's FC Bochum and Holstein Kiel in Germany. And those are two teams where I'm like, I'm sure Leipzig's probably like, we could probably loan him to like somebody who's definitely getting relegated this season. And they could just be like, here, play him for us. And then in say 6 months, maybe he has a chance at Leipzig, but like that's the first or second best team in Germany. Like, yeah, I don't know if he's, there yet. But then the other thing is you look at him, he's probably the third midfielder on the bench right now for the national team, something like that. And he can play in probably 4 different positions for them. Maybe 5 if you really wanted to play him as the false 9. I mean, they did it with Sebastian Lletget. They can definitely do it with Brenden Aaronson. So he's probably, I would guess he's probably going to end up on the Nations League roster. And if he doesn't play much, he could end up on the Gold Cup roster this summer, depending on if they go, he's played, 12 months straight almost at that point. So maybe they don't make him do both, especially if they, looking at World Cup qualifiers in September ago, he's definitely going to play one of those games. So we're going to want him to have some sort of rest. And that could be the sort of thing, like, say they don't call him up for Nations League, knowing we're going to start you in the Gold Cup. You're going to be one of the 8/10s, right? And we're going to throw you in there in a tournament setting. And we're just going to be like, this is your tournament. And if you do well, you'll definitely be one of the first options on the bench in qualifiers. You'll start the third game or the middle game, depending on, how they rotate the lineups in the qualifiers, because that's going to be a big thing to look forward to next year. And after playing in a tournament like that, you could definitely have Leipzig be like, oh, well, we definitely want to buy him now, or even some other team in Germany, like Hoffenheim or something, is like just sitting there like, well, we might as well do it now before Leipzig, gets in. And then not necessarily saying, oh, that team is going to like play him. Maybe they, like I said, load him to somebody at the bottom half of the division. Maybe Schalke wants some help in the second division, something like that. But we'll see going forward with that. But I definitely feel like when he got transferred and when Mark got transferred, with both of them, it's like the quality of the team they're on is really good, but the quality of the league is probably worse overall than the league we have over here. And it was just a matter of, you're going to get a lot more eyes on you because you do have that opportunity in, say, Europa League or Champions League, depending on how you do. And then you'll get the move to England or Germany. And so it'll just be really interesting to see how that develops over the next 3 months.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. And speaking of developing, so I was looking into this, and apparently Robert Lewandowski is injured yet again for Bayern Munich, and then Piatek fractured his ankle over the weekend against Schalke, which means could we potentially see Kacper Przyblko be called up to the full national team for Poland? He has 6 goals, 2 assists in 9 games. And Poland's Euro schedule looks like this. They're in a group with Spain, Slovakia, and Sweden. Poland, they open up against Spain on June 19th. Slovakia, they open up on June 14th. Then they play Spain June 19th. And then they play Sweden June 23rd. So, yeah, I mean, if Kacper did get caught up to the full national team, that means that Kacper would miss some time with Union once league play resumes against Atlanta June 20th. I almost wanted to say July, like I said last night. I don't know why. But look, I don't think that's a terrible group for Poland to advance farther into the Euros. But if they are going to miss Lewandowski, if Lewandowski is not going to be 100% fit for Poland come the Euros, yeah, then it does make Poland have to really fight. I mean, look, yes, they have to fight anyway to get out of this group, but if everybody's healthy for Poland, then I think Poland can finish second in this group. But with Lewandowski fighting injuries, with Piatek not going to play at all, could you guys see Kacper Przyblko getting caught up? I remember in 2019 when he was scoring a ton of goals. I know there was a rumor going around that Poland were looking at him, potentially going to call him up, give him his debut with the national team. But you guys think it could happen?
That just gave me like a really like weird like, oh yeah, we definitely don't have enough strikers kind of feeling, because could you imagine Corey Burke's playing with Jamaica, goes to qualifiers, and he can't be ready to start when they're coming back. Like you look at the schedule and there's so much stuff going on, and yeah, we have a Gold Cup break, but Jamaica's probably going to make to the semifinals pretty. Seems like a likelihood if Kacper were to get called up. And I don't know what the overall Poland striker situation is beyond that, but like say the next 3 games, right? 3 more games, he scores in all of those games. You gotta be thinking like there's potential for that. And so we're going to have a point where it's Sergio and Fontana up front. And Atlanta, and that just made me feel really, really bad about this whole striker situation that I already felt bad about. Or I guess the new guy, if like they get knocked out, he could come in, but then again, he's going to be there too. So that's a whole thing. That's a whole thing. You know, thanks for bringing it up. The other thought I just had, I'm glad that you brought it up, because I feel like if Leon Flach continues to play the way he is playing right now, I don't know why Greg Berhalter wouldn't try to call him up for the Gold Cup this summer. He's probably wasn't until recently in that group of guys, as like Jurgen Klinsmann used to like to say, but like, if he's playing really well in Major League Soccer and you need some central midfield depth because you're playing your B team in a Gold Cup, and he's already proven to play well against a Costa Rican squad, you got to think about it. And then, as always, I still think Alejandro Bedoya deserves to like play at least one more game for the national team. And at this point, I kind of feel like it was his choice not to continue playing, because like that post the national team's Twitter had about, oh, it's his birthday, he played 66 times for us or whatever the number is. And it's just like, and you called up Michael Bradley, who was playing worse for multiple years. Okay. Anyways, we can move on. Ed can talk now.
Well, yeah. I just want to piggyback on what Ricky was saying about what would happen if some of these guys get called out. And has Kacper had any caps with Poland?
Just the youth national teams.
Because he's playing well, and he's had back problems. But if he's healthy and he's playing well, I hope they're at least watching him, because I think the easy thing to do would just be you have to fly him in from across the world, or you could just get a guy in Germany or Poland that's already playing over there and bring him in. But I hope they're watching him, because I don't know like Ricky said, I don't know the Polish striker situation other than Lewandowski. Everybody knows him. But he could, and you mentioned some of the group stage teams that they're playing. He could play against some of those teams. Sweden, he could play against them. He could play against who else are they playing? Who else is Poland playing? I mean, Spain's one thing.
Yes.
Okay, Slovakia. Yeah, he could play with some of those teams, at least be in those games. But then if he's gone, you have this. You have a striker situation with like Santos, and if it's international break and Burke is out with Jamaica, as Ricky said, is it Fontana? Is Fontana the next striker? I love it. I like that idea. Me and Ricky will argue about this, but like I think he's not like a 90-minute striker, but he can play that false nine part in spots just because I want to get him shots. He can shoot as well as anybody on the team. So I don't hate that idea, but with him and Santos, they wouldn't really have a big guy up there either. And I know Curtin likes to have like a big guy and a fast guy, at the same time, depending on who it is. But it would create some opportunities for certain players to step up if all those guys are out. I don't think Flach's going to get called into the U.S. team, but they should be watching him too. I'm the Flach fan club president. I'm going to get the jersey at some point. He does all especially when you're at the game, you just see him make like interceptions and block the ball. He's just in the right place in the right time sometimes. When he first showed up, he was making some like jumping off his feet kind of tackles, but he seems to have kind of reined that in, and he just looked really good last night in his game.
So I'm looking at the other strikers for Poland right now. There's Milik, who I believe was at AC Milan at one point, Napoli as well, and he's currently with Marseille. So yeah, he would get caught up. And no, he was not with AC Milan. It was Napoli that I'm thinking of, just Napoli in Serie A. And then I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. Never heard of him. Swiderski. I have no clue. He's only has two. He only has 2 caps, and he's playing in the Greece league. So I mean, how much better can the Greece league be compared to MLS? And I was looking
is the answer to that question.
Probably not. Frankowski's been called up 10 times to the national team, and he's playing for Chicago Fire. Brusca's been called up once to the team. He hasn't made his debut yet, but it's not like the coach is like, oh, you play for an MLS side? I'm not calling you up. Nah, he's obviously looking at players that are Polish playing in the MLS. So I think potentially we could see Kacper get called up if they're desperate enough. And like you guys said, if he continues to be hot, scoring the next 3 games, why wouldn't you want to take an informed striker with you to the Euros, even if, he's never been with your team? I mean, if you're in form, you're in form. If he knows how to find the back of the net, odds are he's going to still stay hot, I would think. But real quick, I knew we would stay long on MLS news and everything. Real quick, Taty Castellanos, that drama with New York City's over. He signed a 5-year deal, which we all knew he just wanted money from them. And then the MLSPA announced player salaries. Real quick, for people that have not seen where the Philadelphia Union stand on this list, they are at number 25 out of 27 teams for the highest salaries, base salaries, I should say, with a little bit under $8.5 million. Look, we know that the Union don't spend. Where you look at Inter Miami, they double what the Union spend at $16 million. You have Toronto number 2, LA Galaxy at number 3. You have Atlanta United at number 4, and FC Cincinnati at 5. And look, Ed, you talked about how terrible FC Cincinnati is with all the money that they're paying. Yeah, it is not good for FC Cincinnati. And I love talking about FC Cincinnati because everybody's like, oh, they spend all this money. We see it with the NFL when teams go out in free agency and they sign a whole bunch of free agents. That team just won the Super Bowl on paper. And that's exactly what Cincinnati did over the offseason. Doesn't mean that the players are going to gel. They need time to adapt with each other, learn the coaching staff's way of playing. So it's great that, they played great at X club, but have they played together? No. So looking at the players on the Philadelphia Union's roster making over $1 million in base salary, that would just be one player. That would be Jamir Montero with $1.3 million. Now, I do think it's interesting that with how much money that Kacper Przyblko and Sergio Santos are making, Kacper is making $825,000. Sergio Santos is making $660,000. Both of those guys got the contracts bought down with allocation money, meaning that they're not DP players because of it. So, look, I'm not even going to get into TAM GAM. You guys obviously listening to this podcast have been following the Philadelphia Union, I want to say, for at least 1 year. So you guys should have some understanding what Garber Bucks are. So we're not going to get into that. But you guys seeing that the Philadelphia Union being 25, which shouldn't be surprising at all, but Yet the Philadelphia Union, the last 3 years, have been one of the top teams in MLS, even though they don't spend the money.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah, I'll go. I haven't looked at all the year by year numbers, but the Union were 8.5 roughly for the team. It's probably still the most they've ever paid in a season, or at least up there. But it just shows you what the league is at now, because if you're third to last, and what the top team is paying twice that.
Yeah. $
16 million, which for a pro sports team, not a crazy number, but it's still double us. And this debate just goes on and on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else. The Union should spend more money. Well, we have Ernst Tanner. We don't need to spend money.
Yeah.
There's a gray area somewhere in there. Yeah, they should spend more money. Yeah, I'm glad we have Ernst Tanner. They're not mutually exclusive. If you're actively addressing team needs as a supporter shield champion, that's what I asked for, and they kind of did it. Yeah, I'd like to have a star striker, but our two of our top paid guys are strikers that have proven that they can score in this league, and at a certain point, that's valuable more than taking a chance on a guy, I guess. But what do you think, Ricky? What do you weigh on that?
I think it's kind of proving a point we all knew. It's not like we're spending money out here. The thing is, unlike 5 years ago when we were also not spending money, but when we have spent the money, we're spending it on things that are actually useful and not, say, late term Elsinho before he actually figured out what he should be doing here, or I don't know, Marco Fabian. Any takers on that one?
Hey, one good goal there.
At least we got him on a free, right?
Yeah, totally. And we're to the point where we don't have to spend money because half of our team is 22 years or younger, and they come from around here. So, if we can have players like Fontana or say Aaronson and McKenzie last year, and they're MLS best 11 quality players. I'm not saying Fontana isn't best 11 quality player. I just kind of roped him into that accidentally. But you're looking at them, and you're like, that's pretty good. And there was this whole thing, I think, in last night's game where it's like, oh, you've got Aurelian Collin and somebody else, and then 8, youngsters on the bench. And that's not great. But it's I think Matt Freese is a really good goalkeeper. He's just behind Andre Blake, right? I think Anthony Fontana is a really good scorer of the football, so to speak. I think in a year or two, the rest of these kids will probably be useful to a certain extent. And then you've also got Matt Real on the bench, who probably would be starting for a lot of teams in this league. He's just behind one of the best left backs in the league, right? So this idea that, we just have a bunch of youngsters on the squad, and then we're not spending money. But look at this team. We spent a lot of money on Jamiro Montero, and a lot of the players that we're spending money on outside of that were internal. Andre Blake's been here for 8 years now, right? We're paying him a lot of money, right? He wins how many points a season for the Union?
He won him a supporter shield, so
yeah. Players like Przyblko and Santos, we didn't spend a lot of money initially on them, but they came here, proved themselves a little bit, and here we are. We didn't spend a lot of money on Jose Martinez, Leon Flach, all of these guys, right? We won the supporter shield, though.
Yeah, that's where you got to give Tanner credit.
We lose 2 players, and everybody's like, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And then Ray Gaddis retires, and we're like, oh, no, how terrible. All right, I just wanted to make that joke. We can continue on.
Yeah, real quick. What's even more surprising to me is that Jose Martinez Abrujo signed a new contract in the offseason. And I'm looking on this list, and we won't talk about it other than the fact that Orvats, who's with U2, is making more money than El Brujo, even though El Brujo just signed a new contract and he's starting. And Ortevac isn't even with the team. Ortevac is making $270,000 this year, while Martinez is making $225,000. But yeah, let's move on because we could spend even longer talking about who is this guy. But let's go ahead and talk about Philadelphia Union versus New England Revolution. That game, as we know, ended 1-1. You guys are probably as surprised as I was to see the starting lineup with Santos and Przyblko up top. Okay, yeah, I get that. Montero at the 10. That's where I had the problem with. I thought he would be at the 8 with Anthony Fontana as the 10. Well, nope. Jack McGlynn goes back to the 8. Bedoya, Flach, Elliott, Glesnes, and Bizo, Wagner, and Blake. Okay, yeah, all that stays the same. But I really thought this was going to be a game that Anthony Fontana starts, and that was not the case at all. And I think I said last episode, yeah, I really want to know what Jim sees in Anthony Fontana. Where is Anthony Fontana on this roster? Well, I did not ask the question. Thank you, Jonathan Tannenwald, for being the one to ask the question, because this was Jim's response to where the team sees Anthony Fontana.
Yeah, look, Anthony's worked hard for us this year. I think he's had some good moments. I think we all know his ability to get goals and score, usually off the bench. So again, we've used him in that role through these games. That's kind of where we're at with him. We wanted to get Miro at the 10. We thought Leon has done a good job at the 6. McGlynn came in against Chicago and I thought gave us a solid performance. So Anthony will be ready anytime he's called upon. But for tonight, we thought that would be off the bench. And I thought he actually came into the game and helped us. So again, I would say that we're demanding a lot of the group in terms of the no matter how deep you are, we're playing so many games now on such short rest. It becomes demanding for everybody. So again, when you're called upon, we have to take advantage of those minutes. And Anthony's had some good moments and good games, but in the games where we've started him, I think we haven't gotten him on the ball enough. Part of that's on the other players, part of that's on Anthony and his movement. But it's kind of a balancing act. I'm sure he's going to get opportunity to start in the coming weeks, and hope he takes advantage of that.
The opportunity to start in the coming weeks. Well, it doesn't sound like he's going to start against the New York Pink Cows, in my opinion. 2, basically sounds like Jim and the coaching staff see Anthony better coming off the bench. And then 3, which I do agree with Jim, he said, yeah, we don't get Anthony enough touches on the ball because, yeah, sometimes that's on Anthony for his movement, but then sometimes other players aren't getting him the ball. And look, I thought Anthony Fontana played good last night. His 32 minutes coming off the bench, he had 23 touches, 10 out of 12 completed passes other than that stupid ball. He tried to switch the field to Mbizo that Kacper tried. The same exact pass didn't come off. 4 out of 4 completed dribbles. And we saw when Anthony Fontana just went on a dribbling spree there. And that's when he found Jamir Montero when he slipped in the box. Anthony Fontana, when he came on, looked like he was full of it. Had 3 tackles, 1 clearance, 7 out of 8 ground duels won. Played well in 32 minutes. And I do think he's better at the 10 than the 8. I know you guys said, or Ed said that, yeah, I don't mind him as a striker. Which brings up the point, where is Anthony Fontana's best position? And if you ask Jim, it sounds like the coaching staff thinks it's on the bench. Go ahead, Ricky. This is your time to shine.
What did Jim Curtin say at the beginning of the season? Just a question I have.
He has the keys at the number 10 role. He has the keys to start at the number 10.
What position did Jim Curtin start Anthony Fontana at the beginning of the season?
Striker.
Could we elaborate on this a little bit? So okay, sir. We in that quote, and I'm just thinking about it, right? He refers to wanting to get Jamiro Montero at the number 10 position. And I recall, if we would play back the tape from the last podcast episode I was on, where I suggested that haven't we been here before with a certain person who wears number 10 for this team? And, we've been there before with other players like, Alejandro Bedoya, where we were like, oh, we'll play him as the number 10. And then now we're like, oh, Anthony Fontana's the guy, right? But okay, beginning of the season, we've got some injuries. None of our forwards seem to have legs that work. Fontana's been known to start there. I called that before the season. He's going to start there because he's your best option. You put Jamiro there. You play a really bad Saprissa team. He scores 2 goals, and then suddenly you're like, oh, let's play Jamiro Montero at the 10, even though the team would probably be better served with a shuttler that plays a lot of defense. And then you've got Leon Flach over there, and he's playing really well. So let's keep him in there. But maybe, and this is probably the hottest take I'm going to have tonight before we get into the Anthony Fontana conversation even further. Maybe you should put Alejandro Bedoya on the bench. Okay, I'm going to walk away from that one. You guys can let that one meddle. Anyways, so my point is, we all know Anthony Fontana is like the Tajon Buchanan of the Philadelphia Union. He likes to score against the New England Revolution in the same way that Tajon Buchanan likes to score against the Philadelphia Union. I hope I said that right. Anyways, I think we all thought Fontana was going to start last night. Or at least, at halftime, come on, because that game had nothing going on. And then there was like a 5-minute period between like the 70th and the 80th minute where it was like, oh, we might score. Well, they might actually put the ball into the net. And then New England scored. And it was like, oh, well, that's what happens when you have like 8 chances. None of them happen, or Kacper Przyblko gets knocked down like multiple times in the penalty box, including one where he definitely just got taken out. But that's beside the point. Anthony Fontana looked great off of the bench yesterday, and he does look really great off the bench all the time, but I would look great coming off the bench when you're attacking a team like we attack New England every single time we play them, where the 4-4-2 is built to tire down the other team and then score later goals, score counterattacking goals. Yeah, I could probably come on against a really tired team and look pretty good. No, I'm just kidding. I could not. But the problem here is you can't, a month and a half ago, say he's got the keys to the offense and then turn around and be like, yeah, well, Jamiro, who's, again, not really a number 10, should be there. And, yeah, we should probably keep starting Leon Flach. But the thing is, we're looking at Wednesday games a lot, right? There's 4 places in the midfield. We can have Martinez sub out. We can have Flach sub out. We can, again, have Bedoya sub out, which is not me saying that I think Bedoya doesn't deserve to start on this team. Clearly, he's the glue guy, as we all remember that podcast episode. But the dude is old, let's be honest. And Jack McGlynn has looked pretty good, but he's also 17. And let's be honest, Anthony Fontana scores both of those shots on goal against Chicago that Jack McGlynn has, because that's what he does. That's what he does. He scores goals. Might not be a great number 10, but that's where he should be. Am I rambling enough for everybody? What do you think, Ed? What do you got going on?
Yeah, that's like that situation in Chicago would have that ball falls to his feet there. That's what I want for Fontana. I want him getting the ball anywhere in the box and having a chance to shoot it. Playing him at the 8 as a sub, he played really well. I looked at who scored today, and if you look at just player ratings, Fontana had the best rating. He had the best. I mean, Przyblko got the goal, but and Andre Blake had a really good game other than the goal. But Fontana had a really good shift coming on, and I think it's like Curtin has like this. He needs that like Ilsinho off the bench, and he just doesn't have it right now. So he's trying to find like who's going to be that guy that I don't have to start, and then can come in and change the attack. Or like, and I think Santos did that, but you really want him if he's healthy, I want him for 60 minutes instead of 30. So he started, but it's like Curtin said, it's like if I start him, I can't get him on the ball for some reason. Well, like that you have to look at that. But if I sub him and we're trying to barnstorm on New England and get a home goal, or at least try to, he's the guy that you would bring on there. But he's also a guy you could have started in that game. And but who do you like? You can't really bring Jack McGlynn off the bench in that situation. Go get me a goal, Jack. And like you said, he's a 17-year-old kid, and he plays that box-to-box role really well. He's confident enough to not look like an imposter in there. He doesn't look 17 until you look at his face or whatever.
Or his haircut.
Yeah, exactly. It's the young generation and the haircuts. I can't really critique anybody on that, but that's a different conversation. But it comes down to getting him the ball in the right place. And I've not always been a rigid formation guy the way the Union have always been. It was very rigid. It was 4-2-3-1 rigidly for a while. Now it's this 4-4-2 diamond, and we have to do it exactly that way, no matter the players, no matter who we have on the bench, no matter and I know they switch stuff up late in games and they move guys around, but
yeah, like Corey Burke as the right-sided center midfielder.
The right center midfielder for half of that game. What was going on there?
Yeah, and I don't know. He's got his legs right now and he can run, but he's not not that guy. And on the New England goal, he's back making a tackle, and I'm like, it just didn't look good at all. And I don't think Fontana's like a defensive machine or anything, but play him at the 10. He doesn't need to play the 8. He doesn't need to be on the left side of the 8. Play him up where he can score something. And like I've seen in the highlights, and you said it before, there's a play where he dribbles through everybody and dishes it to Montero, and Montero flubs it. Maybe just take it yourself in that one, but he can't get himself the ball in the first half. That's a team thing, and that's a strategy thing. That's a formational thing. And Curtin should have taken some of that too. He said it's on the team, it's on him to get open. No, it's on you to strategically get him the ball if you think he can score. And we've seen him score and being like a sub with 5 minutes left in a game and seen him score. Uncanny, like he just has that in front of the net. He just has whatever that is in front of the net that he can score. So you'd have to, if you're going to bring him on as a strategic sub in a home game, when in this league you really need to win at home, the strategy just wasn't there for him. And he did get chances, but and he was the best player when he came on, but it just wasn't all there. And they got a goal, and we could talk about the Przyblko goal. A lot of people didn't like that. Kind of elbowed Matt Turner in the head, no call, and he keeps playing while everybody's got their hand up. So, you play to the whistle. Don't put your hand up. Play to the whistle, or else Przyblko's going to score. And that ref, I don't know, she was watching a different game at certain points at the end. That's not – I know she's young and new and everything, and that's fine. But you got to play to the whistle. You don't know what she's going to call. She's not going to call the penalty. It looked like a penalty, but she's not going to call it. So play to the whistle. So complain about Przyblko all you want, but if you're the Revs, you got to play the whistle in that game. You just have to.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, honestly, we can talk about, right? I mean, there's so much that we can talk about. Anthony Fontana, look, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but look, Jim Curtin, I believe, brought in Anthony Fontana around like the 60th minute, and Bruce Arena waited 6 minutes until he made his substitution. And in those 6 minutes when Anthony Fontana came on the field, they barely got him the ball. The Union barely did anything offensively, and that's when Bruce Arena said, great, look, let's see what they do with their first sub. And New England didn't have to do much because the Union didn't do much with the ball when Anthony Fontana came onto the field. It's up until when New England started seeing a lot more of the possession of the ball, up until they scored their goal, when Anthony Fontana started doing things with the ball. And look, you guys said it. Anthony Fontana scores against New England. That's why I thought he was going to start this game. And as soon as those New England players saw Anthony Fontana's number up, they're like, are we going to see a repeat of last season? Is this going to be the Anthony Fontana that devastated us last season? And like the players can say, oh yeah, we weren't worried. Anthony Fontana loves scoring against New England. And they, in the back of their minds, are probably like, whatever we do, we've got to stop this guy. And Anthony Fontana goes on a mad dribbling run. Probably should have shot the ball, but great number 10s. They're always looking out for their teammates, and finds Jameer Montero, who falls on his feet. And going back to, look, Anthony Fontana is probably not the best defensive guy. I agree with that. I don't think he is either. And that's the only reason I can see Jim Curtin not starting him, is because him and the coaching staff probably don't like his defensive work rate. And you look at the number 10, anywhere else in the world, number 10s really don't have a responsibility to play defense. But We saw Brenden Aaronson do it. We saw Jameer Montero do it. Anytime these guys have played the number 10, they're always tracking back playing defense. We've seen Marco Fabian. Guy refused to play defense for the Union when he played in the number 10. And I think Anthony Fontana is a better version of Marco Fabian. I think that's exactly what Anthony Fontana is, a guy that we expected Marco Fabian to score a lot of goals, which he did score goals, but I do think Anthony Fontana is a lot more fit, a lot more athletic than Marco Fabian was when he was with the Union. But I have no problem with Anthony Fontana coming off the bench because we know he can score goals. El Senior is not here. And look, let's face it, El Senior hasn't been El Senior since 2019. And even then, El Senior, you could tell, was breaking down. I mean, his legs, his stamina is not what it once was. And granted, he wasn't a guy who was always totally fit. But we need a player that we can rely on scoring goals. And that is Anthony Fontana coming off the bench. You're not going to put in Jack McGlynn, like you said, Ed. You're not going to go ahead and put in Matt Real to be an attacking option when he's more defensive. You're not going to put in Cole Turner, Quinn Sullivan. These guys are all young. Jim Curtin doesn't trust in them, and it's exactly why I think the Union need to go out and still spend more money, and we'll talk about that later on when we get into Blunder of the Week. But there's penalties. You're right. Look, there is 3 fouls inside the box. You're not going to get all 3 calls. I know this game ended 1-1, but the first penalty that I believe it was Bai who got tangled up with Przyblko, dude did not even look to play the ball. He played his legs. Should have been a penalty right there. If one of those 3 penalty calls that the Union called for, that was the one that should have been given. I know Przyblko later on got taken out behind, and Jim Curtin said, and he's absolutely right, that if that was any place else on the field, that is a foul. But because it's in the box, not going to give it. And I think the New England players saw, okay, look, we know we got away with them for the first foul in the box. Now we just got away with the second one. I think they were probably thinking, it doesn't matter what we do to these guys in the box. We can be physical with them in the box. We're not going to give up a penalty. This referee's not calling it. And yeah, I do think, watching the replay, I do think Przyblko did elbow Matt Turner, but it did also look like Matt Turner his momentum was taking him towards Przyblko, but at the same time, too, I guess Przyblko's elbow shouldn't have been that high and everything. And I do think the referees 100% gave the Union that goal because they know it. They know they botch at least one penalty call. And New England fans can complain all they want, say, oh, that shouldn't have been a goal. You're right. It should not have been a goal that Przyblko scored. But one of those 3 penalties, it should have been a penalty. One of those non-calls should have been a penalty call. Let's say the Union score in the 6th, 7th minute, I think, we had a potential penalty. That game would have opened up so much as opposed to the slow, boring, conservative game that we saw in the first 45 minutes. Bruce Arena's game plan would have went out the window if the Union would have scored right away. Because as soon as the Union score, we usually see the Union come right back. Like we saw last night when the Union scored that goal, they came right back. It just seems like this team, whenever they feel like they're down, they're not out. And who knows? They could have scored a penalty if they would have got the penalty in the 6th minute. And they could have went back down and scored a second goal. We'll never know, but the referees completely botched those calls. And for all the New England fans that are complaining about the foul that Przyblko had on Turner, okay, look, us Union fans, we can admit, yeah, it was a foul, but you guys need to admit too, one of those 3 calls should have been a penalty for the Union, which if they would have converted, in my opinion, would have changed the whole way that game was played.
I think looking back on last night, and this is a discussion, one of the many that me and Todd had during the game, where I just was kind of like, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with tying this game 0-0 at the time because, like, neither team really deserved to win that game. Was there a few calls either way that was like, yeah, that's interesting, but I don't know. You don't get to see everything the way the ref gets to see it, and you don't get to see it the way the VAR is, looking at it. So I thought it was one of those games where, like, they scored and I was like, I'm not going to be hugely upset if we lose this game because at no point did I think, oh, we had a bunch of great opportunities and we just didn't score, and I'd be frustrated about it. And then when we scored, I was like, okay, cool, whatever. This is kind of exactly what I expected after 90 minutes of this game. And it's the sort of thing where, like, even with the subs, yeah, Corey Burke came on, Anthony Fontana came on, the game got a little bit more exciting. but those are the only subs we're making, and it's the classic Jim Curtin, just kind of like, here's my attacking sub when we're tied or losing, here's my defensive sub when we're winning, all in the 60th minute. And that was another thing that I said to Todd last night. It was just like, oh, he's going to sub on Fontana and Burke without the 61st minute. 10 minutes later, Fontana and Burke go to sub on. I don't know. The no calls were a little bit upsetting. The amount of yellow cards the Union just seemed to get this season, whether or not like they're deserving. Like some of the ones at the end of the Chicago game, okay. Some of the ones last night, like Kai Wagner's yellow card, I was just sitting there like, okay. I
didn't see that at all.
I think the Revolution might have gotten 1 yellow card the whole night. I think the Union ended up like 5 or 6 at that point. It was just kind of like, what's going on here? I don't think it was a great refereeing performance, but I also I've definitely seen refs who have had worse performances in games. So I was just kind of like, if it's her 4th game in charge, there are things that you'll learn over time. And we've seen refereeing performances from people who have been named referee of the year, where at the end of the game, I was just like, what is going on here? I think there was a game a few years ago where Drew Fisher won the referee of the year, and he just completely lost the plot of the game 10 minutes in. And it was just like, okay, this is what we're doing tonight. But we can't do much about that. We can't do much about, what calls are going to go for us or what calls are going to go against us. Some games you're going to get those calls where you're like, yeah, that's good for us. Maybe it's not the penalty that actually should have happened, but it's the penalty that does happen. And I think in the end, it all kind of evens out. At some point, we're going to get some calls on Saturday that we probably shouldn't have got, but we'll move forward with that. Maybe later down the line, we'll have a goal scored against us where we're like, sir, there's a foul. But I think at this point, I've been watching enough Union soccer games to just be like, it's going to be what it's going to be. And at the end of the night, I'm either going to be happy about the result or I'm going to be annoyed by the result. And last night was one of those games where I was just like, this is exactly what I expected out of this game. And you got to take it for what it is.
Yeah, three yellow cards on the night for the Union: Kai Wagner, Jamir Montero, and Kacper Przyblko. Kacper and Jamir, I think both of those guys lost their heads, and then Brenden Aaronson got a yellow card in the 91st minute. But before we get into Blunder of the Week and listener questions, you did bring up a point with all the fouls that the Union have created this season. And last night and a little bit into today, there was a discussion on Twitter, are the Union undisciplined? Which, looking at the stats, some people might say yes, because the Union, they have 73 fouls committed, which is the most in MLS by 3. And then they have 12 yellow cards, second in MLS. And we saw against Chicago, Sergio Santos lose his head because he thought he got fouled. Potentially could have got a red card that game, and he gets a yellow card because he thought he got fouled and loses his cool. I think he got a yellow card against Saprissa too when he kicked the ball against the billboard, because I forget why he got a yellow card for that. I forget why he got mad, but yeah, he kicked the ball against the billboard and said, yeah, here's a yellow card for you. So do you guys think this team really is undisciplined, or is this just, we know the Union play high press soccer and fouls are going to be an issue?
I think it's just a matter of the way that they play, and you're going to get a lot of like defensive fouls. You're going to get a lot of, moments where there's tackles that are going to be a little bit interesting and a little bit iffy. You've got players Martinez and even like Matt Real against Saprissa, where his main goal after he subbed on seemed to be, I'm just going to take this guy out. And honestly, I think it's also you look at Jim Curtin himself as a player, and then you look at who the captain is. Bedoya's a fiery player. He's very he's not going out there making terrible tackles or anything and getting hella yellow cards and stuff. But between him and Montero and all of them, those are all feisty players on the field. They're gonna get in their scraps. Santos does that. Przyblko does that. Kai Wagner Like, we've seen him get in arguments with players. I just think it's just a matter of like how this team was built, how it's coached, how it's led by Bedoya. There's only a few players like honestly, Jack Elliott. At no point have I ever been like, Jack Elliott's about to fight some dude. And he might be the only player on that field that I've never had that thought about. Because even like you look at some of these kids like Fontana, like, Quinn Sullivan's the other one where like he was so out of his depth in that game in Saprissa. But other than that, I think it's just a matter of like, it's Philadelphia. Come on.
Ed?
I think it is like I think a lot of it's a mechanism of just how they play. They press teams. Teams get frustrated with them, especially teams that try to play it out the back. You can just see it happen as they, as midfielders step in and tackle a lot. It goes back and forth. They get tackled. They tackle a guy. Then the next one, it gets personal, or it's a 50-50 ball, and they both go in, and then they both get up and yell at each other. It's a lot of like high intensity tackling, and it just leads to that. I wish, like, they're kind of built to foul. I just wish they wouldn't get the yellow cards as much. But it's like you said. I mean, Santos probably justified. That was all stuff after the play though, and it's like they got to rein that in. Don't get yellow cards after the play. Get a yellow card stopping an attack. Then we'll take those. But these extracurricular yellow cards, they got to try to knock that out. But the way they foul, I think they're going to be a team that fouls and a team that stops attacks when they can. And then you're going to get yellow cards from that. But let's make it from that, and let's make them productive, and not so much these, like, I'm screaming in a guy's face and now I'm going to get a yellow card for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Less of those.
Yeah, you're spot on. You're spot on. And look, we were talking about how this team doesn't really have a lot of depth. And if we lose players to yellow card accumulation, yeah, it's like, come on, man, like, control your temper. And it's going to happen, I feel like. But, maybe Ali and Jim Curtin can say, look, guys, let's stop. They got into El Brujo pretty hard when he got that red card, and we'll see how he performs when he comes back from that suspension. But let's go ahead and go into Blunder of the Week. So Blunder of the Week is going to go to MLS for scheduling 12 games on 2 days rest for the Philadelphia Union. And I was looking at this. Jim Curtin brought up the stat last night in his press conference, and you could tell he was ticked off with the Union playing New England and playing the Red Bulls on 2 days rest where they have a week's worth of rest. So I was looking at some of the darling clubs of MLS, LAFC, Inter Miami, New England, those three clubs. I was like, let me look up, use them as an example. How many games does New England play on a 2 days rest? Oh, New England, they play 3 games. LAFC, Inter Miami, they just play 4. By far, the Philadelphia Union are by far the team in MLS that plays the most games on 2 days rest. 12 games. 12 games is ridiculous. And because of that, look, the schedule is what it is. And that's not even including what potentially can happen in Champions League. It could be even more than 12 games for the Union. They absolutely need to go out and sign players. Let's hope that Sergio Santos, Kai Wagner, if he's still here in the summertime, Kacper Przyblko, let's hope that those guys get green cards. Because if that's the case, then that means we can go out and sign more international players, obviously. But for the Union to have 12 games for right now on 2 days rest, that's ridiculous. When you look at LAFC, Inter Miami, New England, you guys can go ahead and look at more teams because it is so much more teams. Nobody comes close to what the Philadelphia Union are. But if Jim Curtin thinks that, okay, we will throw out the same lineup, we don't need any more players, he knows we need more players. I'm just hoping that we get players approved for green cards, that we can go out and sign more international players. Look, I like the homegrown players, but this roster, we saw it last night. Jim obviously does not trust the options he has on the bench. Those guys really aren't attacking options. We need another striker, and we talked about Kacper Przyblko potentially getting called up to the Polish national team. Corey Burke goes. That's 2 strikers and we're down. Now Sergio Santos and Anthony Fontana as your only strikers. What if El Senior comes back? We know we've seen Jim Curtin throw El Senior up top as a striker. No, I don't want to see that. So this is ridiculous that the Union play 12 games on 2 days rest. And if I'm hot, I can only imagine what Jim Curtin, the players, his coaching staff feel like. It's just ridiculous by MLS to see Oh, the MLS Supporters Shield winners in the Philadelphia Union defeat all the odds last year. They don't spend a lot of money. We talked about that earlier, guys, where they go ahead with the roster they have, win the Supporters Shield. And I feel like this is MLS saying, yeah, F you. You guys don't spend money. You guys aren't one of the darling teams in MLS. We don't want you to go ahead and have a successful season. So here's 12 games on 2 days rest. So MLS, you're getting my blunder of the week.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit last night, but it's like MLS Twitter is going to retweet all the MLS teams are still left in CONCACAF Champions League. Look, there's these 4 or 5 teams still left. Well, now there's one team left in CONCACAF Champions League, and you're going to take that team and overload their schedule. It's classic MLS self-defeating. We're going to overload the team that won last year and the only team that's still in this international tournament that we claim to be proud of and retweeting about. So it's the thing I don't get, and I don't know if there's a back and forth with like our front office and the league when they're making the schedule, because I don't know how this, and I just don't know how it happens this way. I mean, I don't expect them to like cater to us because we're in Champions League, because at least in the beginning of the year, we're not the only ones in Champions League. They can't cater to the top 4 teams or whatever. So, but it's also don't screw us with a schedule where nobody, 12 back-to-backs where nobody else is doing that. It just doesn't sit well. And all the teams are going to deal with these international breaks. So why should our schedule be more packed than anybody else's? I just don't get that. And from MLS, it's kind of like self-defeating on an international scale. But maybe it's like you said, maybe we're not the darlings of the league, or we don't bring in as much money as some of the other teams. But I don't know. It's MLS being blunder of the week, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Ricky?
I don't think it's as deep as you guys think it is. I think it's just like a normal scheduling thing that just sort of happens.
But to be as far as some of these teams I just talked about, 12 games where you look at LAFC, New England, Miami, 4, 4-3, that's ridiculous. When the Union have 12. And Jim Curtin said,
if they asked for certain nights to have games, maybe that happened. I don't know. Maybe they asked for it. I don't know how that conversation goes.
Look, we know the Union do not attract well on Wednesday night games, on Tuesday games. So why would the Union say, yeah, we want 5 Wednesday games when fans don't come out on Wednesday? No, the Union wouldn't say we want Wednesday games.
I don't think they did.
No, absolutely not. I think this is MLS saying, F you to the Philadelphia Union. You guys don't spend a lot of money. Who's Jay Sugarman? We're going to screw you guys over, and here's 12 games. And what you guys did last year, we're just going to prove that it was a fluke. No. But let's go ahead and talk about listener questions. We have 2 of them from my good friend Brad, and we have one from Michael Van Sant, who, we're going to rub it in Michael's face, who you beat last year, or this year in the season 2 of the trivia final. So
he beat me, but Ricky beat him. So
there we go. It all, you see how that interconnects? It all relates somehow, one way or another. But let's go ahead and answer Brad's question. His question was, with Martinez coming back from some suspension soon and the new signing of Gazdag, what does it leave Leon Flach on the starting 11? He's playing so well right now. Where does it? I like Ricky's suggestion where he says that maybe Ali Bedoya should go to the bench. Not that he's playing bad, but he's 34 years old. Like, he needs a rest. And Jim said last night too that, Bedoya, like, he wants to be out there every minute. Jamiro wants to be out there every minute. Flach now is showing that he needs to be out there every minute. I wouldn't be opposed putting Leon Flach on the right side of the diamond, or I guess because Leon's left-footed, put him on the left side of the diamond, put Jamiro on the right side of the diamond just to make it natural for those guys. But I don't know. I mean, Martinez brings a lot different of a dynamic to this team than Leon Flach does, where Martinez is super aggressive, and I love seeing it. But at the same time, too, Leon Flach has been aggressive, but, he's smarter, I feel like, with his fouls. El Brujo is just going all in. He's like, I'm getting all or nothing. Leon's like, let me be a little bit more conservative, but I'm still going to play aggressive. So I don't know where it leads Leon. My best starting 11, honestly, would be Sergio and Kacper up top, Gazdag as the number 10, Jamiro on the left side of the diamond, Bedoya on the right, Martinez as the 6, and then Elliott, Glesnes and Beiser, Wagner and Blake as your back five. But Leon is playing super good right now, and it is hard to see how he loses his spot when Gazdag comes here. But look, that shouldn't be a conversation, in my opinion, because we literally just talked about 12 games, and I'm going to be stuck on that. And there's going to be a lot of games on 3 days rest. I mean, we're playing sometimes 2 games in a week. So Jim's going to have to rotate guys. And I think because of all the games we're playing, especially playing multiple games a week, you've got to bring in new players. We want to see depth. You know, not a lot of teams in MLS have good depth. And I think that's one thing that the Union do have a decent, not a great amount of. They do have somewhat depth. And yeah, probably just El Senior, Corey Burke, and Anthony Fontana coming off the bench. But I do think there is room for the Union to bring in more if players get their green cards approved. But it is hard to say, yeah, look, when Martinez comes back, it is hard to say, yeah, Leon's going to the bench once Gazdag's here. You guys, thoughts on that?
I think we do have a lot of, not necessarily like our depth is like, you know, when we talk about the whole problem with the Champions League for us is that Mexican teams have better benches than we do. I think we have a lot more bench than 80% of the other teams in this league. And I think at this point, we probably have 6.5 starting midfielders. When Gazdag comes in, you've got, it's probably a best 11 starting 4 of Martinez, Bedoya, Montero, insert number 10 here, right? And then on the bench, you've got Flach, probably Fontana, and I think at this point, Jack McGlynn is clearly a starting level player, right? So you're looking at this going, oh, I probably got 6.5 midfielders that could start any game. We're going to have a lot of, you know, Wednesday games. Let's rotate. Now, Jim Curtin won't do that, but he could, right? He could. And I think one of the things last year we looked at is we're trying to find a player as a backup for every single position. And we basically got that. Now, some of them are, you know, Nathan Harriel, maybe he can play if he needs to. Maybe he can't. Some of them are Jack DeVries. Maybe he'll ever, you know, be healthy again. Whatever it is. And I think Jim mentioned this on, what was it, Tuesday in that press conference. He said something about, oh, maybe we end up playing with 2 10s. And you'd think that would be sacrificing another midfielder or maybe a fullback. But at this point, we've got 3 forwards. Maybe it's sacrificing one of the forwards, and you come out with some weird 4-1-3-1. 4-1, whatever. 4-1-4-1, right? 4-1-4-1. Yeah, we come out with some weird 4-1-4-1 formation, and we have just Przyblko up top, Santos on the bench. You throw out literally 2 number 10s, and you move on from that. We could probably make that happen. I don't think it's the sexiest lineup you're going to throw out there, but maybe you go, okay, let's start 5 midfielders now, since we only have Przyblko, Burke, and Santos, and one of them is always not going to be there. It's just a fact at this point. So let's roll with what we have. We've got all this bench option. El Senior is going to come back eventually, and at that point, maybe you have 8 starting quality midfielders. Whether or not El Senior is ever going to start a football game again in his life, different conversation.
Ed?
Yeah, I like that idea, or at least like some of these concepts, because they are going to be like lean. They're going to be like, they're deep in the midfield and lean at striker. I would like to see like 4-5-1, but as I said before, they're kind of stuck in this system for better or worse, which is fine. You know, they've won with it. But I think with all the back-to-backs, and I think you're going to have to, like, I think Flach might have to try that Bedoya spot. And it is funny because he does, you know, I guess vocally he says he doesn't want to miss a minute. But, like, it's just so many back-to-backs. He's like, it's a long year. It's not the end of the world for your captain to sit a game for Leon Flach or something. But it's Curtin, so he's probably not going to do that. He's probably just going to play the best. He's going to play the healthy best lineup that he has. And as the season goes on, opportunities will come for guys as injuries happen. It's like the worst thing about sports, injuries, but injuries are going to happen, and we're going to need guys to step up. Right now, it's looking pretty clean on the injury sheet, but it's just not always going to be that way. And they're getting deeper, especially in the midfield. So that's, it's a good problem to have, but it's not a good problem when you can't score. So they just have to work out a system where they can get the right guys on the ball in the right spots and the right guys playing defensive mid. You could do like a 4-2-3-1 with Martinez and Flach, but I don't think he's going to do that. You could do 2 10s. That's interesting, but I haven't seen them do that. So it's going to remain to be seen what they do as this year goes on in terms of like strategy. But I guess it's a good problem to have. But they've got to try to strategically work these back-to-backs where they can rest some of the guys that need it throughout the year. But hey, if Bedoya said he's ready to go, then I guess he's ready to go. Who am I to say that he's not?
Yeah, exactly. And the two formations Jim specifically mentioned, which I've got to think they are thinking about, is 2 number 10s or 2 number 6s, which, 2 number 6s definitely wouldn't be the sexiest formations. But the last question comes from Michael Van Zant. He says, do you think Fontana is destined to be a sub on the squad with the new signing? Look, we talked about this a little bit. I said I think Fontana's best roles as a sub. We heard Jim Curtin say basically, Fontana's best role is a sub as of right now. You guys heard what Ricky says about Anthony Fontana, that he should be starting. He should be playing as the number 10. You heard Ed say that he likes him as a striker. So, unfortunately, there's just with a new new attacking midfielder coming in, there's just no way I see Anthony Fontana getting anywhere close to the starting 11 if everybody's fully healthy. But I know this was a longer episode than what people are used to. I know it went a lot longer than our Twitter Spaces did, but it's fine. Look, we had a lot, I told you guys, of MLS news to talk about. And it's always good to have a lot to talk about as opposed to just rambling on and making it sound like you know what you're talking about when you really don't. But Ed and Ricky, thank you guys so much for both coming on. And as I always tell you guys, go ahead, plug your social media. Where can people find you? We'll go with you, Ricky.
You can find me on Twitter at Ricky Rondo and on Instagram at Ricky_Rondo. Go like my new Instagram picture. That'd make me feel really good.
I'll go like it. I'm on Twitter at Buzzkill_Ed. I think it's the same on Instagram. I'm not very active on Instagram. Ricky's Instagram is better than mine. He goes to amusement parks and stuff, so that's always fascinating. And there's a picture of the supporter shield on there with all of us in it, so that's a fun thing to have. But just Buzzkill_Ed. I follow back all Union fans. Keep it going. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Or play these guys on PlayStation. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on any social media, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, follow at Free Kick Pod. Check out the website, thefreekickpodcast.com, which, I think I'm going to leave Weebly, who I went with to design the podcast, because it's not, website, it's not that great. So if anybody has any suggestions for a better website builder, hit me up and I will look into it. But that's where you can check out the podcast. That's where you can find it on social media. Or if you guys want to listen to the podcast, if you're not subscribed, check out the Free Kick Podcast, Todd Lewis. But we will see you guys. I will see you guys. Maybe somebody else. Maybe we'll do a Twitter Spaces. I don't know. Depending on how I feel after the Red Bulls game, we will see you then. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.